Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Music Rooms podcast. And today we are joined by Gerry.
Hello. Hello,
And
Calum. How are
Gerry,
you?
I'm pretty good. I'm sure anyone that's been in and around the music rooms probably is familiar with you, but for anyone that might be new, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, well, first of all, I'm new to this type of thing, Calum. This would be the very first podcast I would have done. So, my name's Gerry McLean. I'm a Ballymena man. A lot of people might know me from local music shops, the latest one being the music rooms in Ballymena. So, as I say, I've been around music shops for quite some time now, selling musical instruments and chatting to musicians in the local scene.
So it was, I think Rodney was very keen to get you on. Of course, I was chatting to Rodney in the first episode, and I think straight away he was keen. You were a guest we needed to get on, so
Yeah, well, I appreciate that of Rodney. I would know Rodney quite well. Rodney was a customer of mine in a music shop that I worked in. I'm sure he won't mind me saying the name for Trevor Keys. So Rodney
yes.
was, I wouldn't say he came in with his school uniform on, but he was quite a young chap when I first met him, and a very, very, as he is today, a very likable young fella,
Yeah.
but very, very easy to chat to and just a good guy. So I find I find myself lucky that I've met him in such a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a very, very nice guy to have met.
So hopefully today we'll get to know a bit about you because I'm very interested with all this praise Rodney has given out. What kind of stories we're going to get today?
Well, as I say, I maybe had a bit of a life lived for some of these guys when they were coming into the shop. Like being a musician is a difficult thing, I think, for one thing, because you know you're stepping into a world where you're entertaining for one thing, stepping in front of people and all that type of thing. So I don't know if I made that easier for them by passing on whatever bits of information that I might have. But yeah, I just I've been an entertainer for quite some time. So like I would relate to the like of Rodney that was coming in as a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old starting on the journey of for one thing, learning your instrument, figuring out how that's all going to be done, you know, meeting people and chatting to people when you're at your gigs and that type of thing. So I've been at that end of it the same as those guys since I was kind of 17. Now, when they look at me now, they maybe don't appreciate at my age that I was their age, if you know what I mean. So yeah, just I just approach it as I want to kind of help as much as I can. They're
Yeah.
wanting to learn about the industry, learn about their instruments. You know, technology for one thing has moved a lot from where I was at 17 to where young guys are now doing, for instance,
Yeah.
podcasts or Zoom gigs. So, but I think they figure I have a little bit of information to come across with them, and I love somebody to come in and go, do you know anything about, or could you tell me something about? And possibly I do know it, and I can share that with them. So that's a wonderful thing. So there you are.
Just getting a bit of
You
connection
still
issues
with me?
here. Hold on. Yeah, I think we're still here. So you had said
Okay.
about being an entertainer for quite a while. Could you tell me about
Yeah.
where did that start for you? Like, what was your first foray into music?
My first foray into music, and I would have to start by telling you, our family was a music family. So my father was in what we would have called here in Northern Ireland, the show band scene. That would take you back to kind of the 50s. So my father had his show band thing going, and then when he kind of retired out of that or got too old and had a family, when we all grew up, he felt that would be a good thing for us to get into. So
Yeah.
my two older brothers were in a band, like a show band, pop band, cabaret band type thing. And they had always a 5-piece band. But as bands can be like, members would come and go. So there was one time one of the members of the band left, and he was actually a guitar player. Now, when I was younger, I wanted to be a piano player because just at around the time, you're talking around the 70s, keyboard players, synthesizer players were kind of the cool guy in the band. So I kind of wanted to aspire to be the keyboard player. But it just so happened the guitar player left in the band that my brothers and that were in. And my father managed the band at the time. So he pointed at me and says, "You're going to be the new guitar player in the band." And at that stage, kind of 16 or 17, I hadn't played a guitar. So I had to start learning the guitar. And I had to start learning it very fast. So within kind of 6 months, now I had played a bit of guitar, but within 6 months, I was in the band as a guitar player. So I wished I had stayed at the piano. I moved on to guitar, and I moved on to being a lead guitar player. So in a band, you would have a rhythm guitar player, bass player, drummer, lead singer, and I became the lead guitar player, which I'm now very happy that actually happened, because I quite enjoy being a lead guitar player.
You get to be the big star.
You get kind of, yes, when the singer stops for applause for the chorus into the lead, that they all look at me. So yeah, it's nice, that part. But as I say, you have to be regimental. It's a regimental thing, music. You have to be ready with the right solo at the right time. So yeah.
That's quite interesting because. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say. Usually, people getting into music and that, it usually is kind of the guitar or singing most people want to do. They want to be that like front man, but you or the piano is.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really see that as often, but that's quite cool.
Well, maybe it was just, as I say, the era that I grew up in within music. Like you would have had, when I was 16, 17, 18, you would have bands, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, for instance, and the keyboard within Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they were only a 3-piece, so the keyboard was very important. Who else? Well, Pink Floyd was one of my favourite bands. Mm-hmm. So the keyboards within Pink Floyd and that type of thing. But yeah, it seemed to be the era, and we're all kind of zoned in on the era of music, for instance, that would kind of define you as a musician. So yeah, but no, I never wanted to be a singer. I never seen myself as standing on the edge of the stage. To me, that's an important role. So maybe in my mistake, being a keyboard player, albeit that was an important part, but you were that was the side role. The singer's a very important part, and everybody's looking at you more, So as a young 16-year-old, I didn't feel that would have been, I would have been able for that.
Would it be safe to say you wanted to be a performer, but you didn't really want to be like the, that person on stage that everyone's looking at and is dancing around? I think
maybe at a young age, Calum, I knew there was responsibilities. And I just thought the lead singer had more of a responsibility he would has more control of the show. And I just was frightened of that, I suppose. I wasn't really...
Yeah.
Because now, remember, I should have said this, my brothers were a couple of years older than me, 3 years older than me. So they had that bit more experience and understanding. Yeah. And I suppose I had the nerves and all that of, I remember distinctly the first couple of times I was on stage, I kind of hid in behind the speakers, nervously hiding, so as that people wouldn't be, you're always aware of people looking up at you, and, you find people talking to each other and you're wondering, oh, are they talking about me? When they're not really. But, you just have all those insecurities. Within your own self. So I was aware of that. And as I say, they had the experience, the 3 years more experience than what I had. So Calum and Larry, as I say, Calum was the rhythm player. My brother Calum was the rhythm player. Larry was the lead singer, and they had quite a bit more experience than me when I was thrust into the limelight, so to speak. But there you are.
So, how long then did you stay with them as a band? Was that?
Now, what time is it now, Calum? This could go. This could go a bit. So my brothers had been playing. I was about 8 when I realised what was going on musically in our house.
Yeah.
And as I say, my father had the career as a show band man. That kind of came to an end, and he had reared his family up. Larry was about 14, Colin was 17. And they got into a band at that age, right?
Yeah.
Which was a strange thing to do. So they get into a band, what would you call it, a cabaret band. So there was my brother Larry, my brother Colin, there was a gentleman called Roderick Macaulay, there was a gentleman called Derek McPeak, and a gentleman called Kevin Irvin. And they became a band called the Young Fontana, and started playing the local area just as a little cabaret band. You know, how can you describe cabaret? You know, ballads, maybe a fun song. And they kind of got discovered. They got discovered by a manager from England, right? So again, you have to remember that you're talking around the 70s. The Osmonds were about. Boy bands were just on the beginning of becoming to fruition. So this gentleman seen them playing in the local area of the big town. Well, sorry, he didn't personally see them. His wife's mother seen them in a town called Ahoko, in a local bar in Ahoko. Yes, you would know that well. And they were playing in a bar upstairs. It's called the Rock Place now. What's it called? I forget the name of it. Derwin does the rock music in it. The Fairhill.
Oh, the Diamond.
The Diamond.
It's the rock club upstairs, yeah.
Yeah, no, the rock club upstairs away in the 70s was a cabaret lounge come, middle of the road lounge. So anyway, they were seen in there, and to cut the long story short, they were rushed off to London, England, to be prepared as a boy band. So they recorded with one of the biggest recording companies in the world called Decca, and they recorded a song. This gentleman, the manager, got them to record a song through Decca, and it was to be pushed to the charts and that type of thing. And they were playing round working men's clubs in England, one of them being the Batley Variety Club. The Batley Variety Club, if you look at musical history, it's mentioned quite a lot by Dusty Springfield, Tom Jones, Petula Clark, all Lulu. Now, I know you're not recognising them names, but
I would know most of them. They're all pretty.
Yeah, they're massive stars.
Yeah.
So this manager had got the young Fontana in that genre, and back then there was a bill. So you had the opening act, you had the middle bill, and then you had the top bill. And he had them always playing second top of the bill. So one night in Batley Variety Club, Lulu might be top of the bill, and the young Fontana was always there, a second top of the bill. 6 months later, Dusty Springfield, the young Fontana were always second top of the bill. They were going for dinner with Lulu, going for dinner with Dusty Springfield. They were meeting Elton John, getting the photographs taken with people like that. Then all of a sudden, the manager gets killed. He was coming to a meeting somewhere in London in his Mini Cooper and had a crash and was killed. So that, for the young Fontana, that all came crashing round. Obviously, the guy that was making them famous wasn't there anymore, and that stopped. So that touch of fame or glimpse of fame all came to an end within the space of kind of 2 years. So that's what happened there. Obviously now they moved on, and as I say, that was where my father kind of took over at managing and putting them. They had obviously grown a little bit older and didn't want to do the cabaret thing anymore, and then wanted to get into pop. And they had been playing a few years. They were kind of into their 19, 20, and they'd become a pop band. And then, as I say, members were leaving, and that's where I came on. So yeah, quite a bit of history. So that brings us up to 1981, 1980, 1981. We all then moved to Canada. By that time, my sister had joined. So there's my brother Larry, Calum, myself, and my sister. And my father had got us an engagement in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. And we got to go there for 6 weeks to play in a club with the possibility of staying and having a career there. So we went there for 6 weeks as a very young family band.
Must have been nervous.
I was a baby. Well, yes, it was all that, but I was 18 and we didn't quite behave quite well for the first 6 weeks. So we kind of went there with a party attitude, and the gentleman that had taken us out to work in his club says, look, you're not kind of ready for a career in music in this country if you're going to behave like that. So we didn't get to stay at that time. So we came home after 6 weeks and kind of took the wrath of my father's anger for another 6 or 7 months. And then the opportunity came to go again. And my father had spoken to the chap and says, look, they understand the importance of this and they'll be different. So we got to go to his club again and work for 6 months. We proved ourselves to him and he says, okay, I'm going to set you up with an agent, get you equipment and you can stay. So we get the 6 weeks in his club and then he got us 6 months engagements throughout British Columbia. And we started working and touring, and that ended up 10 years of entertainment in Canada, which the guys in the shop will laugh at because I can't talk, and you'll appreciate this a little, I can't talk about things other than say, I remember the time I was in Canada. So yes, so there was 10 years of a musical career, working 6 nights a week almost for 10 years.
Okay, so we'll take a bit of a break there. We'll leave you in Canada for now.
Yeah.
And instead, we're going to follow on the theme from the last episode, and we're going to take you to a desert island. It's not going to cost you a thing.
Yes.
But there's probably not going to be a lot to do there. So we're going to get you one of those old iPods where we can load songs onto it, but we're only going to put 3 on it. So if you were to pick any 3 songs for that, what would your first one be?
My first one, and it always makes me feel so good, is More Than a Feeling by Boston.
Yes.
And as I say, people talk about music, bringing them back or taking them somewhere or giving them a memory or giving them an emotion. And for me, that song, just every time I hear it, just gives me a lovely feeling of a beautiful song. It gives me the thought of what it would, when you think of a song like Boston, More Than a Feeling, just the words in the song, you can imagine yourself being there and, looking out his window and seeing all the things. And just, so More Than a Feeling by Boston just immediately gives me a warm, cozy feeling.
Definitely a good one if you want to get a bit of, I guess, like an uplift from it, like makes you feel quite...
Yeah, and it's an inspiring song as well for a musician because there's so much goes on in it with the vocal. Obviously, is an amazing vocal. The guitar riff is amazing. The drums are amazing on it. So it's just a well constructed song. But as I say, forgetting that, just to hear it takes me back to wanting to get my guitar and learn the riffs, learn the guitar parts. For one thing, but as I say, it's just a really feel good song.
Yeah.
And a great history of a song, actually. If you wanted to talk about that particular song, it was recorded by one guy. written by one guy and recorded by one guy in his own home studio. So quite a bit of history to that song as well.
That's impressive, like one guy to come up with that. Like,
Yeah, well, as I say, his name's going to elude me at the minute, but he had a career in a photocopying company.
yeah,
And now photocopying was a big technology again back in the 70s, 80s, before iPhones and all that. So he had a great career in a music copying company, but wanted to be a musician. And his father was saying, no, 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 stay in your job, get your pension. But he did listen to his father and wrote this amazing song, and the rest is history. So,
okay. So, where we left you off there, you were in Canada for, you said, about 10 years performing.
yeah.
And what sort of led to, I guess, eventually making your way back here? Did the contract just end, or
Uh, no, typical things of a band. Members were always leaving and coming and going, and technology had moved forward. So we had lost drummers, we had lost the keyboard players, and somebody introduced to a drum machine. And it was one of the first drum machines. So we realized we could go out and play. There was always one constant in our band, which I felt we were very lucky for. And that was that my two brothers were singers. Because
yeah,
one thing, you can't have a band without singers. You can't have if you want to perform, the main thing in a band for me, I think, is singers. So the two brothers were always, so I was always secure, so to speak. But after being there about 9 years, the constant touring was wearing off. We were always in a different town, different place. There was no, there's no set place. There was no home, so to speak. So
yeah,
just after about 9.5 years, we thought, we'll go home and see what's going on. And once you get home, you suddenly realize how much you missed home. And as I say, we gave it a good go. We gave it 10 years, but we were home about 2 months. We all had tickets to go back. Came home with flights, with return tickets to go back. And the work wouldn't have been any trouble, but we got home and we just enjoyed being at home so much, because home's home. And we just kind of said, will we give it a go here? Will we stay and give it a go here? And we did. And we weren't home. We were home about 3 months, and the work started to come in. And we thought, because when we were working in Canada, the setup would be different. So you would go to the light of a club or hotel, and you'd be there for maybe 2 months or 3 months,
yeah,
working 6 nights a week from 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning. So when we come home, you're only working on a Saturday night. So we had all this freedom for the rest of the time. So it was just nice to get home. It was nice to see all our friends. It was exciting being at home again. As much as it was exciting to get away to Canada, it was exciting to get home again. So we stayed and just started working around the clubs. We got an agent over here, and he was getting his work, and it was good. And we just continued on as if we hadn't, well, it's not as if we hadn't left home, but we had to get a niche. We had to get back into a niche and work there. But we felt it was just nice to be home. So we stayed home.
okay. So, then what sort of led you into, I guess, working more with the likes of Rodney and that? Like, did you find you just wanted to do a bit less performing, wanted something a bit more regular, or?
Um, I was always, before I left to go to Canada, I had a job, and I was a musician. So I always liked the idea of having a job. So when I came home from Canada, one thing that happened was I met a girl.
Yeah,
So when that happens, that can change your life, Calum, So I met a girl, my partner, Karen, at the time, and we fell in love and all that there, and had a family. So this is just personal for myself. So that led into the need. We wanted to have a house. We wanted to have kids. So that led it. The music business can be a little stuttery, for want of a better description. When you want to depend on it, sometimes it isn't there financially. So I felt having a day job would be a good idea. Now, if you'd have told me when I was 17 that I was going to be working in a music shop, that wouldn't have been one of the choices for a job I would have chosen. But
Yeah.
I had met a friend at a time when I came home called Peter Hara, and Peter had a music shop. So I had been around Peter's shop. I didn't think I was working for him at the time, but as it turns out, I was working for him. So I had been about his music shop. I had met my partner, Karen, and she suggested, why don't you ask him for a job? So I got a job. That was the first job I had in a music shop, was with a gentleman called Peter O'Hara. But Peter had been in a shop quite some time, and he was phasing it out. So I worked for him for about a year in the music shop, and then he closed the shop, and I had to get a job. So I ended up in a job like the local furniture come warehouse type thing. Yeah. So I worked in a warehouse type job for about 5 years, the day job, but still doing the music at the weekends. So the music always continued on the Friday or Saturday night. And then I lost the job in Cairns. And I can't remember. I had met a friend called Phil Coulter. Just again, by being in the music industry, you hear these names and you meet people. And I'd been in and out of the music shop where I ended up working. And Phil was going to uni. And had mentioned my name, that I had worked in the music shop somewhere before. So Phil Coulter recommended or had mentioned to Trevor Keys or Leslie Keys that I might be available for the job. And I walked into Leslie's shop one day and he says, "Are you that guy, Gerry McLean, Phil's?" And I said, "I am." He says, "Are you looking a job?" I says, "I am." He says, "You'd be interested in working here?" And I said, "I would." So that was my first day with Leslie Keys. That lasted about 12 years. And it was just great.
So you sort of just found your feet here eventually, I guess, like set roots down.
Well, eventually. that was, the 10 years in Canada, as I say, was beautiful, Calum, but it was a nomadic lifestyle. You know, you had no roots. One of the things I miss now, and I had great friends in Canada, but when all my friends got together to chat, my Canadian friends, I was involved in the conversation up to a point. Because obviously when friends get together, "Oh, do you remember the teacher at such and such? You remember when you were in class at school and the headmaster or someone or the teacher?" I could only go so far back in that conversation. And then I wasn't involved. Not that it was a bad thing, but it was just nice to get home. As I say, I got home, I had met, and we were having a family, and I had nice stability with the day job and the music. So, yes, it was nice. Stability was, I suppose I created a bit of stability in my life. I don't know why. But I was always a worker, and I always wanted every day. So, and I just fell in love with the music shop part of it, believe it or not.
Okay, so we'll take another break there and we'll head back to the desert island if you want to give us your next song.
Now, my next song would be a song by a band called Pink Floyd. And it's off the album Wish You Were Here. And it's a song called Shine On You Crazy Diamond. So I remember hearing that for the first time. And it's got a 20-minute intro before there's actually a word sang. Are you still with me?
Yep.
So Shine On You Crazy, I can't remember if it's part 1 or part 2, but Shine On You Crazy Diamond by Pink Floyd, as I say, it's a 20-minute intro, and the first part of it's Synthesizer by Richard Wright, and then the iconic guitar solo by the one and only David Gilmour. And that would be one I don't think I could live without that song. It's It's Pink Floyd, I would say. Pink Floyd music to me is, I refer to it as my friend. Because as a musician, even today, the young guys that are coming into the music shop, I said, well, Pink Floyd's album, The Wall, I tell the young guitar players, any sound you want to hear that a guitar can make, you listen to Dave Gilmour. Because every sound a guitar's ever going to make, he's made that sound with it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But as a song now, as I say, Wish You Were Here, it clicks all the buttons, emotion, quality, how the song's constructed, how it's written, all the things. So, Wish You Were Here would be, Shine On You Crazy Diamond.
I'm sure you know the way my dad was a huge Pink Floyd fan as well, much like yourself, and so of course I grew up, hearing a lot of them, and definitely I could see why you would want a Pink Floyd song.
It's just quality. It is now. It's and every you can say whether you like or dislike a style of music, but if you get into the nitty gritty of how it was recorded, for me, those guys, Pink Floyd, when they started out, they weren't very good. They really weren't very good. But they evolved, and they lost their main singer and main songwriter, and continued on, and then lost their main singer and songwriter, and then continued on. So, as a construct of a business, they seen just from a business point of view, it's a massive business. Pink Floyd was a massive business. But when they started out, as I say, they were experimental. Nobody was a great singer, nobody was a great songwriter, but they stuck with it. They seen something in it and continued on. So, just amazing. The history of Pink Floyd is colossal.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've read bits here and there about them, and even the member that left to join the cult, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sid Barrett was one of the original members, and he got into the wrong side of the music business and got himself involved with drugs, and basically ruined his mind. So but having said that, as I say, they were able to, it's destined for you. I think if I rewind back to my brothers in that band and them losing the manager, you could argue that was kind of their destiny. So, like, as I say, Pink Floyd lost Sid Barrett. They got Dave Gilmour into the band and continued on. They could have got 10 other guitar players and it wouldn't have happened. So all those things in musical history.
You think there's so many bands who, something happens, one member leaves or whatever, and that's it for them. Like, they can't recover from it because they're so used to having that person there, and it's quite impressive to almost get better after losing someone.
Without a doubt, and that's what I say. That's not one of the reasons. It is one of the reasons I like Pink Floyd, but and musical history has quite a lot of stories like that where bands have managed to keep going against all those diversities. Like Genesis losing their lead singer and then Phil Collins stepping in. Because back in the day, a drummer wasn't allowed to be a singer; he was just supposed to be a drummer. So there's been a lot of changes, a lot of evolution through music and the business of music. So yeah, it's very interesting. I find it very interesting. I talk as if I know a lot about it, but I don't really.
All right, so we'll get back to where. So you were working with Trevor Keys in the music shop.
Yes. Yes.
And so how then did you end up meeting Rodney?
I was with Trevor Keys about 12 years, and among other things, there was a financial crash in the world. So that kind of affected business quite a bit, and affected obviously our town, Ballymena. That affected it. I think this is kind of what happened. So I don't think they've seen the profit in it or whatever just being there anymore. And Leslie Keys and Trevor were very, very good to me, very good to me. And there was a young gentleman also worked there called Aaron Blair.
Yeah.
So as I say, myself and Aaron were both there about 12 years. And then the financial crash came, and a couple of other things. We had water damage in the shop, for instance, which took us out of business for a couple of weeks. And we moved across the street and things like that. But to cut the long story short, they didn't see a future for the shop in Ballymena. So they basically closed the shop and made us redundant. And I had to get another job. So I had another job for about a year. And within that year, there was rumours of a young gentleman opening a shop. Now, as I say, Trevor Keys, that's where I first met Rodney. So Rodney was coming and going, starting his musical career. He also toured Australia with his music.
Yes. Yeah, we talked a lot about that in the last episode, playing pubs and St. Patrick's Day and stuff. And
yes, I'm thinking maybe a night, a bed for a night in your house, a time or two.
Yeah.
So he had been doing that and coming and going. And there was at one stage he had offered when our shop, Leslie Keys Trevor, was going well, he offered Leslie to do lessons, because Leslie always did lessons, but he only ever done them on a Saturday. And the gentleman that did the guitar lessons, it was only ever done on a Saturday. But I remember Rodney coming to Leslie with this business plan and putting it forward to Leslie, but Leslie didn't go for it. So Rodney says, "Well, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to follow this. I'm going to do this. I think it's a great idea." So Rodney went to Dalgorm Industrial Estate and got himself a unit and went about converting it, and he started music lessons for himself. Now, I know there's a little bit before that where he had done them for us for a while, and he had run a few other places, but he finally says, I think this is a business plan and I'm going to go with it and stick with it. And he started it in Gulgorm. So that fast forward through to where, as I said, Trevor Keys and the financial crash had happened. And I'd been out of Trevor Keys about 8 months, and I got a phone call, or I got a call from Rodney that he wanted to speak to me, and he says, "I'm going to open a shop, Gerry." And I says, "Oh," I says, "You're mad. Don't be opening a shop. It's a terrible time to open a shop," and blah blah blah. And he says, "No, I think it's a great idea. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to get myself a business plan. I'm going to open a shop." Because he had sold little bits at Gulgorm. And he says, "I think it's a great idea. I'm paying rent for a unit to have lessons. Why would I not have a shop in it?" And I said, "That's a great idea." Now, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth after losing the job and all. And he says, "Well, that's great. Off you go and do that." He says, "I want you to work in it." I says, "What do you want me to work in it for?" He says, "You know things about being in the shop." And I says, "Yeah, I do, but," I says, "I don't know if I want that responsibility." He says, "Gerry, I'm going to open the shop. You be there for a few months, 4 or 5 months, and we'll get the shop up and running. And if you want, you can stay, but if not, you can move on then." So he got a unit in Ballymena, and he filled it with stock. And we got the shop opened, and we did it for 3 months. And he says, "What do you think? What do you think?" Now, don't forget, I had a musical career along all this as well. My family was going; they were growing old or getting older, and I had a mortgage. And I didn't know if I just wanted all that stress coming, because now I've been at home. I was working a full-time job during the day and doing music at night, and I had this kind of idea. Says, "I'll just do the music." But Rodney Beggs, with this charm that he has, with his soft speaking voice, he says, "Gerry, I think this could go, this could work." And I says, "Okay, look, we'll give it a few more months." And we went at it, and we were getting employers. Young guys to come in and work, and I was working, and it just seemed to be working. It just seemed to work. And he says, "Look, you need to stay. You need to stay. You can't leave now." So that's 5 years ago. And Rodney is one of the biggest shops. He now has Ballymena, Coleraine, and Antrim. Antrim, Ballymena, and Coleraine, the ABC of music. And we have a long way to go. It's only beginning. It's only beginning.
But it's funny hearing, because obviously Rodney talked a lot about that, starting in Galgorm and how they grew and all. But to hear it from your perspective, where he sort of tells it almost like one thing just led to another, and then he had a music shop. But you sort of describe a much more confident, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna open a shop. And
that's how he came across to me. I kind of maybe was putting a pin in his bubble by saying, "Look, Rodney, opening a shop's a big business. Yes, he had his lessons, and that was controllable. I said, but you're going to attach, obviously, accounts for musical instruments and bills for music instruments and all that type of thing." So, but no, Rodney evolved into being a business. I don't know if he would agree with that, but as I say, he started it by standing in for our guitar teacher, and then moving on to do his own lessons, then moving on to open a unit, and then attaching the shop to it. So I don't know if he would think of it as a haphazard, but when I look at him as a very intelligent risk taker.
Yeah.
Because it is a bit of a risk, obviously, getting into business, no matter what the business is. I wouldn't have that in my toolbox, as they say. I'd be frightened of all that, but he embraces it, and nothing's ever a problem.
So then, obviously, then you're still with Rodney now, and obviously it's not exactly the best climate at the moment for musicians and all. No. But what sort of stuff are you hoping to do in the future when things hopefully allow? And do you have any plans?
When COVID hit, again, the person that is Rodney Beggs approached it amazingly.
Yeah.
I was just in awe. We went online, as did many of businesses come. But to move that online, we have a young gentleman working with us called Lee Mack, and a young gentleman called Alwyn. They would be the administration end of things. And Rodney Beggs, within the space of, we'll say 6 weeks, moved his teaching online. Now, technology being what it is, that was a big thing in my opinion. But it was just as if it flowed. Rodney Beggs flowed as if it was something that's just going to happen. We're just going to make this happen. And it did. And they kept the lessons going online the whole of COVID, which was a big challenge for every business in the world. So coming out of that, we're going to be bigger and better. We're moving. The shop's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. There's new lines coming online with Fender, Black Star. It's just going to be bigger and better. We've a great team now. We've a great team of people, and I think that's down to Rodney Beggs. Rodney, now I don't look at it as if I was chosen, but he had the foresight to ask me about a shop because I've been working in a shop, and as I say, he has the like of Aaron, Alwyn, the teachers that he handpicked all those people, and there's just such a great team at the moment for a business. I consider myself the old guy in the shop, and the like of yourselves, the young ones coming up through Calum, the technology, the availability to look after a business now is just amazing. So he has that side of it very well covered, with the like of Alwyn and Lee that take care of all the teaching and selling. That's just amazing. So yeah, I think the only way is up at the moment now.
So okay, hopefully that's us back here. We had a bit of trouble there connecting, getting the audio to work. Hopefully this is us fine again. So we were just saying there about what next, or what will be next for you, Gerry, performing in the future. Hopefully, getting back out when things allow.
Well, look, as I say, the only way is up is the new. We're actually moving across the street to a new premises, so the shop's going to be bigger, the lessons are going to be bigger, and we have now a rehearsal room that can accommodate two bands at the one time. We're going to be incorporating a podcast studio where we can do videos, discuss new equipment. There's some of the bigger music shops in England do it quite often, but we're going to embrace all of that side of it, the multimedia side of it as well. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it all sounds exciting from what Rodney has said. But just to, I guess, finish up here, could we get your last song?
Now, I've had to think about that one. As I say, we've had More Than a Feeling and I Wish You Were Here. My third song, again, these three songs that I'm mentioning have just got into my psyche. So there was a gentleman called Gary Moore came on the scene in the, well, he'd been around for quite some time, but he came on the scene with a song called Parisian Walkways.
Yeah.
And he played this. It was a instrumental. Well, not a full instrumental, but it was basically an instrumental with a chorus, with the great Phil Lynott singing the song. But it was the sound of his guitar. He was a Gibson Les Paul guitar player, and this again, just it's the sound and the ability of his playing that just again instantly takes you back to music's great. It's a great thing for inspiring, I feel. So when I say it, for me, when I say a song's good, it makes me want to reach for a guitar. So when I heard Parisian Walkways, I wanted to learn how to play Parisian Walkways. I still haven't done that, but at any time I hear it, always inspires me to play or grab the guitar and wonder how he got that sound or how he bent that note or how he got that scale within that blues. So Parisian Walkways would be one of those songs.
Well, there we go. That's probably the future of the music rooms right there. Gerry playing Parisian Walkways live for everyone to hear.
Say that again.
I said that'll be the future there, getting you playing Parisian Walkways live for everyone to hear.
It's one of the things, again, I love about being in a music shop. A young 17-year-old that's starting to learn. I'll maybe see him when he's 17. Like a lot of the young guys that used to come into the music shop to me and Trevor Keys and Aaron will tell you this. Aaron would have taught them guitar when they were 11, 12, 13. Now they're coming out of the shop, they're 27, 28. And some of them have great ability, Calum. They can, for instance, play Parisian Walkways very, very well. So that's wonderful to see. That part of it, as I say, is wonderful to see. Some of the guys say that I can play the guitar, but I feel I'm still learning. I just feel there's a long way to go for me. But they seem to think I can play a bit of guitar. So,
well, that's perfect. I have to say, you've definitely lived up to the reputation Rodney was promising. I think that was very good there. Great, really great chatting to you and getting to hear a lot of this history, I guess.
Well, as I say, I have guys that have come in to me 20 years ago and they still want to come in and have a chat. So I feel that's an important part of the music, of a music shop. And I think Rodney appreciates that's what I bring to the shop per se. So I'm really appreciative of that. Yes, I have a musical knowledge. Yes, I have experience in bits and pieces. But I think, as I say, I can still speak to young people that work experience with themselves, for instance. And they still say, hello, Gerry. They remember my name, which I think is just a wonderful thing. So that part of the shop is an important part as well, yes.
Okay, well, that's great. I have to say thank you to anyone that's listening in, whether it's your first time or whether
Well, I'd just
you
like to
carried
thank
over
you.
from our last chat.
I would just like to thank you for making me part of this. I remember in Trevor Key's music, and where we work now is quite close to the technical college. So some years back, the technical college guy knew me in the media department. So he would always send the young students down to me. Now, and as I say, in those days, it wasn't an iPhone or anything like that. They had to come in with a tripod, screw a camera onto it, and point the camera at me to have a chat. So I hope I made them feel at ease, Calum, because this is quite a difficult thing to do, as you would appreciate. So as I say, I hope I made you feel at ease, and you made me feel at ease as well. So.
You've done well here. So we'll just say thank you to anyone that's watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hopefully we'll see you next time. We've got plenty more guests.
Calum, thank you very, very much.
See you next time.